All right.
Okay, for Libra rising people, the full moon is in the 9th house. Really nice place for it. It's a house of marriage. It's the house of higher knowledge. It's a house of father. And it's a great fortune house. So the full moon to be there, that should maybe bring an increase in being in the right place at the right time, for having, good ideas that will overall increase your luck and your fortune over the next year. And you have your Venus, the Lord of your rising sign, right there in the 1st house too. So also in an air sign. And so this is like really good for your health, having Venus there. And then the full moon in the 9th, and all these manifestation planets here in your 3rd, aspecting that full moon. It looks like lots of activity for Libra rising too, especially as it regards neighbors and siblings and skills. And the full moon aspecting Jupiter and Mercury. So if you're trying to write a book or wanting to write a book, you could make some significant progress here. And at least coming up with ideas or breakthroughs and where maybe you've gotten stuck or something along those lines, how you're just going to move it forward. This will definitely help you do that. Let's see, and okay. I think that's pretty much all I have to say about that at this point. Maybe something that you say will trigger off something more for me.
Sure. Yeah, I think for Libra people, Libra is an air sign. The moon is in an air sign. So I think it's similar to the experience of Gemini people, the Gemini ascendants. They're going to get a lot of energy from this moon, a lot of inspiration and influx, as I was saying before, and they will need to watch out about getting vata imbalance or getting too much air.
Mm.
So again, I think if anybody else is going to get some insomnia from the full moon, it'll be the Libra people. Now they do have Venus in their own sign, which is great, and that's a balancing factor for sure. It's also something that is going to make this full moon more rejuvenating for them.
Nice.
Venus is the planet of rejuvenation. So I would say the best way for Libra people to maximize the benefits of this full moon would be to take some rest. I don't mean go to sleep. I just mean take it easy, Yeah. Rest and relax, have some R&R time during this full moon, because it's primarily going to be a rejuvenating event, and the ideas and insights and whatever it is that comes to you is going to come to you in that scenario of you being passive and open to it.
For people who are just tuning in just for the Libra part, that means they didn't hear what you had to say about that essential oil that would help them with any insomnia or mental exhaustion from overactivity. Would you tell them about it too?
That was Jetamansi, also known as spikenard essential oil, and I was recommending that it be applied on the palms of both hands in the center and also on the soles of the feet, and it can also be applied to the heart chakra. And that oil will pacify any excess air in the heart region, which these points relate to. So that will help people fall asleep, and it's very relaxing. The aroma usually helps people fall asleep rather quickly.
Right, and if you can't find it, Neeshee has some.
Right, if you can't find it, contact me. I have some.
Yeah. Yeah, so no, I can't really think of anything else to add here, except the Venus in the 1st house. At least I notice that when Venus is transiting through my 1st house, I tend to feel more relaxed in general.
Right.
and I feel more in touch with my body and with my heart.
Mm-hmm.
And things tend to flow more easily because of that. And so this happening with the full moon also in the 9th house, it just looks to me like this would be a very nice time.
I think so too.
And, you know, being aware of this, so this happens on the 23rd of this month, so it'll be right for Thanksgiving. Like knowing this in advance, it helps so that you can truly savor the that time, because the moon is full in this house for you only once a year, and I don't know when again you'll have Venus in its own sign in the ascendant and the full moon in the 9th house of which is a great fortune house. You know, I'm not sure when that'll happen again. So being conscious and being fully present for it. It'd be interesting also if you tell us in some way or another how it was for you. We would like to hear it.
For sure.
Okay, so Scorpio rising. For Scorpio rising people, the full moon is in the 8th house. And the 8th house is associated with your partner's resources, inheritances, the metaphysical sciences like astrology and cards and other things. And it is, well, the full moon gives. So wherever the full moon is, even if it's in a so-called difficult house, it will still bring something to you, some kind of good thing. And maybe you've been maybe you've been thinking about 8th house kinds of things, for instance, whether or not to get more deeply involved in studying astrology. And I think that you'll find that you'll want to, especially because Mercury is involved in it too, and Jupiter, the planet of spirituality and higher knowledge in general. So since these planets are aspecting the full moon in the 8th house, whatever you do in that area of the, like say, the metaphysics or the occult sciences, you'll get a lot out of it. You'll get a lot of insight. That could actually benefit your entire life, simply because the study of astrology is a spiritual path in and of itself. And it does transform you over time. Wouldn't you say that was true, Neeshee?
I would say that's very true.
It has been a very transformational experience. Now, what's interesting too, and that is like Taurus, your opposite sign, Taurus has it actually occupying the 2nd house, and you have the full moon aspecting your 2nd house with Jupiter there, the planet of wealth. And so you too will probably be thinking about whether or not you're getting your needs met and how you can get your needs met better if you're not. So it's aspecting the house of the voice. And in order to get our needs met, we almost always have to be involved and actually use our voice, meaning ask for what you want, say no to what you don't want, and then negotiate with the other person, allowing them the same rights. And if you had problems with this in your life, this would be, I think that you'll make a lot of progress there simply because Jupiter is there for a year. And then the full moon aspecting it too is just going to intensify that. And then look, we've got here Mars and Jupiter aspecting each other. That's usually a wealth combination just by itself. So this is a good time for you to think about your partner's resources if you have a partner, and or if you don't have a partner, like what kind of resources you would like your partner to have, basically, because, you know, money is really just to bring us experiences and various levels of freedom. So, you know, I would like to recommend that you get a book. Just because you have Jupiter there and the full moon is aspecting it, maybe you can get it before the 23rd of this month. And the name of the book is Money, Master the Game by Tony Robbins. It's a really good book. He's interviewed all the wealthiest people in the world to find out what they do with their money.
Interesting.
And yeah, and he's got something set up, some kind of institute or whatever, that will help you personally get the most out of the money or the resources that you have, your investments and such things. So what would you like to add to that about Ayurveda in particular, if you have anything that comes to mind?
Well, first thing that comes to mind for me is that Scorpio is naturally the 8th sign of the zodiac, and the moon is falling in its 8th house. So there's something already about Scorpio that's naturally dipped into the occult,
right?
Hidden nature of things, or the depth of life that's beneath the surface. So that's an interesting placement for the full moon, because it's actually going to bring out something about Scorpio that's innately true, you know, which is this kind of pursuit or investigation or energy for occult and hidden things, esoteric things. So this is a time when, you know, maybe if you're Scorpio rising, you're already into those things. If so, this is a great time to focus your energy in those things. Maybe if you're Scorpio rising and you're not already into those things, this is a good time to consider exploring it. And if you're watching this video, you're already dipping into some of those things, because astrology is an occult science. So there's nobody watching this video who's not already involved with their 8th house. Now, the 8th house is also really important from a health standpoint, because as I've said before, the 8th house is ayus, which is life. Okay, and that's why the 8th house covers like such a broad spectrum of things. It's also a very vulnerable house. It's a very powerful house where the life force is concentrated. So the life force is concentrated in the 8th house for Scorpio people with this full moon, especially. But it's going to be much more internalized than for some of the other signs, because Scorpio by its nature is internalized. Moon is in general an internalizing influence, and the 8th house is very much inside things, you know, not outside things. So Scorpio needs to be aware of this full moon initiating some kind of inner process in them. And so I do think, like you were saying, pointing out the aspects, Karen, that it's going to be a great time to learn about occult things, to read occult things, to study. Scorpio is a water sign, and this air element is definitely going to help it flow, you know? In all cases, you know, the function of air element is flow. So in all cases, everyone is going to be flowing a little bit more than before with the full moon. It's just what element is going to be flowing more. So with Scorpio people, that's water, you know? So there's going to be a greater flow of life energy itself, you know, of emotion, of feeling, you know? So there might be some things to confront in that.
Interesting. Yeah, and look at the Lord of Scorpio, Mars, is in the 5th house for Scorpio in a water sign. So easily aspecting it. And it's in contact with the full moon. And these 3 planets here, you know, the Sun, Jupiter, and Mercury. It seems like this could be a year for, a time period for really significantly moving forward in emotional things, and especially how it maybe affects your resources, because for many of us, the reason why we stay at a particular level and we struggle financially often has to do with emotional reasons. And often things that are below our conscious awareness.
That's right.
And so in order to get to the next level with that and to break through perhaps your set points, because we all have them, going all the way back to childhood, you know, the full moon here, and then aspected by Jupiter, those 2 great perspective planets, you probably could have a complete breakthrough in your mindset and see and find the whatever emotional situations or experiences in the past that are involved with that.
And Scorpio is always looking to connect with that which is deeper.
Right.
And there's a strong need to connect with that which will ultimately be a fulfilling connection, even beyond, you know, just a mere relationship, but the connection with life itself, you know, and that's very transformative. And what I also want to point out is that they're getting that Rahu is Rashi aspecting Scorpio.
Now. I was noticing that.
So that's also going to be a factor here in the kind of the changed landscape for Scorpio people. You know, because we're saying all this in the wake of the change of Rahu and Ketu, you know, moving into Capricorn. And so they've already, you know, this full moon is coming right on the heels of that. And so Scorpio people are definitely experiencing a transformative event right now. It's just beginning, in fact.
Right. So, and it's nice too that the change of Rahu and Ketu is around the same time that Jupiter is in his own sign.
Yeah, that's a really great thing. I'm really stoked about that transit.
Right. It just gives you such a nice leg up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I think that's it for me, for Scorpio.
Yeah, I would, same here.
Okay, so now Sagittarius. For Sagittarius, the full moon is in the 7th house. Mm-hmm. Really nice place to have it. So that has to do with romantic partners, the public in general, people from foreign countries, business partners. And so, you know, the full moon is auspicious, and he's a giving moon. So it seems to me that, again, this is going to be with Jupiter in the 1st house for Sagittarius rising. Wow, it seems it's almost overwhelming how good this can be. I mean, so this maybe can stretch your ability to receive good things. Because I know for many people, if you grow up in any kind of difficulties, like not necessarily poverty, but where there's a lot of lack, you know, your ability to receive goodness is kind of set at a certain point. And the only way to move past that is to stretch your capacity to receive good things, you know, that life wants to give you, that the divine wants to give you. And so you'll have like a whole year, you know, it's definitely with this full moon involved, where you're going to be able to do that. And also Jupiter here too is like a great thing to have in the 1st house for the body, for sure. And then the moon is the mind. So it just looks like a mind expanding experience to me. And then Jupiter is the planet himself of gratitude and blessings and all good things. Mm-hmm. So definitely, I would love to hear from Sagittarius rising people what this full moon will be like for you. And especially because the 7th house has to do with relationship. And the planet that rules the 7th house for you is Mercury. And Mercury is aspecting that. If you're single, these two manifesting planets here could help you to, well, manifest a partner for you. Someone who is truly suited to you, and vice versa. So in other words, don't stay home on this day. Even if for some reason your family's far away and you can't actually get together with them, get together with friends, something. Go to a soup kitchen and feed the homeless if that's all you've got. But it, you know, it's a good thing to do anyway, whenever time of year it is. But sometimes on Thanksgiving, doing something like that can just make you all the more grateful for everything that you have. And you never know, you could meet somebody there. You have anything to say about this, Neeshee? About it being in the 7th?
Yeah, I would say this is obviously a major time for Sagittarius people, you know, and I think it's great. They have this nice connection, you know, with the aspects between Jupiter and the moon and Mercury and the moon and Mercury and Jupiter. And I mean, it might be a great time to write, to express themselves creatively. Can also be a time, yeah, of just general expansion. Again, Sagittarius is a fire sign. This is similar to Aries. You know, this is also Sagittarius is active. You know, it's a very active sign, and that fire element is now gaining inspiration from air. You know, because the moon is in an air sign. So this is a great time for them to really expand and grow and express themselves. And, you know, it's in their own sign. So Jupiter is in its own sign. So it's just, this is an enormous time for Sagittarius people. They're getting a lot of energy and a lot of direction, really positive direction. So I don't know, almost anything that they do during this time is going to be a good thing. It's the way that I'm seeing this.
Right, right. The only thing that comes to mind other than that is that Mars in the 4th might mean that you move, if that's something you're wanting to do, or just do some work around the house, you know, just fix things up, because that Mars energy there does make it hard for you to sit still. And with all this transformational manifesting energy in the 1st house and then the full moon, you're not going to be sitting still anyway. So Mars is in a good sign. He's also ruled by Jupiter. And so this is one of the better signs for Mars. It seems to me like you could do a lot, like just around the house, or if you move, you could find a place that's kind of like, I don't know, like your dream place, really. And it's the inner house of emotion. It's the house of inner emotional happiness, too. And so Jupiter is aspecting that. So that is like Virgo rising, is it adding to your ability to be happy regardless of your circumstances, meaning where you're not under your circumstances, you're over your circumstances. Jupiter is the planet for that.
And relative to the 7th house, I mean, obviously, like you were saying, Karen, this is a great time to connect in relationship. So for Sagittarius people, this full moon is bringing a lot of nice connection and energy in existing relationships, or potentially in a new relationship, or one that's forming. So that's a positive thing. And, you know, you got Mercury on your side, you know, good discrimination. You got Jupiter on your side, good fortune, good blessings, goodness itself. Right. There's a lot of good things going on here to keep you from really going in any unhealthy ways. So, yeah,
definitely. It could bring children too, because it's Jupiter, and also because the 5th house lord of children is aspecting. So, yep, it can bring children into your life, a pregnancy, if this is what you want. Okay, so now for Capricorn. For Capricorn, the full moon is in the 6th house. And so that is the house that is related to health. And it's a good time to start something. Now, I know a lot of astrologers talk about starting things on the new moon. But in actuality, the new moon doesn't have much light. So that's really when you're letting go of something. A good time to start something is when the moon is full, just before it is completely full. And that is because you have the energy to do it. You have the light to see what you're doing. And it's also symbolic of the imagination being able to sort of like pave the way to where you want to go and get the whole process started. So if you have been dealing with a health issue, or if you've been thinking about changing something for yourself, like in your daily routine that would support you in your health, this is a really good time to start it, an excellent time to start it. So especially because Jupiter is aspecting that house too, and so is Mars, and Mars likes being in aspecting or involved in houses that require you to put some kind of effort into overcoming obstacles in your life. So Mars is helping you with that as well. So what would you like to say about that, Neeshee?
Well, I think you made a great point about when to start things. And I just want to highlight that because there is that common notion that you should start things on a new moon. But it's really great to start things on a full moon, because at the full moon, the energy is at its peak. And as I said before, just in terms of the body, the energy is moving up the spine and into the head. And after the full moon is going to be the waning cycle. So that which reaches fruition in the head is going to flow down into life, into the lower centers of the body. The lower centers of the body is where our vitality is. So that's where the energy that fuels our life in the world and, in the earth realm is coming from. Okay? So that which we nourish during a full moon is going to trickle down into our life. So that's why this is really the time to start things. Okay?
Yeah, I like that explanation. That's very visual. I can picture that in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And Capricorn rising is another earth sign.
That's right.
So you can listen to Taurus and Virgo rising too if you want to get more information about that. And then now K2 has moved in to the first house.
That's right.
And what's good about that, believe it or not, there's actually something good about it. And that is that you can focus on your partner and your partner's whatever they're involved in more, and less focus on yourself. And that can actually be a relief, considering especially that Saturn has been there now. In December, it will be a year. And Saturn is making you very aware of time and managing your time and the shortness of time, the passage of time. And so K2 being there, it will intensify that to some extent, just because Saturn K2 combinations do that. But also K2 is a strongly spiritualizing, he's not a planet, but we call him that because it's easier, a spiritualizing planet. And I see that in increasing intuition. I've noticed that in certain K2 transits that intuition is more intensified. Like you're much more likely to just know things and without being able to explain how you know it. And that's usually associated with fire, because fire is intuition, but K2 has a fiery nature to it.
That's right.
There's that too. And this Capricorn rising is my rising sign, so anything you want to say about that, Neeshee, would be very appreciated.
Sure. I think, there's a lot going on here, and K2 moving in there can go one of two ways. And one is what you were just describing, Karen, where a person is able to utilize this energy positively and let go of themselves and move more towards where that energy needs to be found, because that's where it's really flowing. And that's going to be in the 7th house, so towards partnerships and all that. Now, if that choice isn't made, then a person can just get more locked in themselves and find that their energy is just stuck altogether. And that's not going to work out so well. So K2 can either show us where the energy is stuck or where it could be made to flow. Okay, those are just the two options. Now, Saturn is typically quite a limiting influence. And so we find that Saturn will keep that life energy suppressed or stuck in certain ways. So both Saturn and Ketu have those connotations. Now, Saturn also helps us to deal with Ketu, okay? Because confronting those limitations that Saturn represents, we liberate and regenerate our life force, which is something that happens through Ketu. You know, and Ketu is showing us where that limit is and where we flowed really well, but now we need to flow in another way in order for that original flow to really be whole and complete and full. So Ketu's working, but he's not complete yet. So there's a lot going on here. There's a lot of potential for Capricorn people to be really struggling with their health during this time. And the solution to it is going to be more psychological and more at the level of their mind than it is anything else, because that's what's patterning their life force. And that's how it's going to be stuck or flowing. And I think there's a great opportunity with this full moon in their 6th house, again, of health and disease, for a lot to be unlocked. But it could also go the other way, in which the moon in their 6th house just increases a lot of the air that they're already experiencing, because Saturn is an airy planet already. Exactly. That's why people feel really unstable during times of Saturn transits. So Saturn on the ascendant is already increasing a lot of air for Capricorn people. Now, they're earthy people, so it's not that easy to get them unstable, okay? Despite the fact that they're still a movable sign, that fixed earthness is really, you know, helping them. Now, the air of this moon could make things worse with Saturn. You know, it could increase a lot of this instability that they're feeling, especially in the 6th house, which is health and disease and enemies. You know, things could just feel more unstable. But the degree to which the person is dealing with this Saturn in a grounded way and able to keep their feet on the ground and stabilize themselves through understanding and transformation and positive, you know, confrontations with the fears that they're experiencing, and that's going to help them use this full moon to actually regenerate. So there's a lot of potential, a lot of dynamic going on here for Capricorn people, and it's likely to be kind of a full spectrum experience.
Okay. Well, you know, what's interesting about that is that I have made really big changes in my health routines.
There you go.
Yeah. I mean, it started about a month ago, but it's like really, I've just been really concentrating on it a lot. And yeah, and so I'm feeling better in a lot of ways. Though at times, like you said, I keep forgetting about Saturn being in my ascendant. And I do oftentimes feel tired for no reason that I can figure out. So I'm just resting more when I need it. And some days I feel full of energy, and other days I have no energy at all. And I'm just kind of accepting it and going along with it.
That's really smart, because especially with K2, people will experience that more.
Oh, okay. That's good to know.
Like not having much energy, because where the energy is in where Rahu is.
Right.
Okay, so people are going to feel like, you know, just struggling really with their energy levels and things like that. But the more that Rahu is activated for them, the more it flows back, you know, to where it came from, which is K2. So, you know, that balancing act.
Like I told my husband, it means it's his turn now.
That's
because he's been helping me with my business for a long time now. And he's been starting one of his own over the last year or so. And so I've been waiting for this, right? So I can start being more support for him. So I think that's good. I'll just focus on that. Okay, so Aquarius. For Aquarius, this is another air sign. And the full moon is in the 5th house. Really nice place for the full moon. It's a house of creativity, and you've got, you know, Jupiter and Mercury aspecting it, and it's the moon. So again, that always makes me think of a book or writing. It doesn't have to be a book. It can be, you know, blog posts. It can be letters. It can be just a journal keeping, whatever it is. But there's kind of an emphasis on that. It can manifest some of that. So if you've been wanting to get to it, which is hard to do because there's always so much to do, you may find that your energy is just focused there naturally and easily. And so you'll start whatever project or continue or pick up whatever project you've put down for various reasons when the moon is full there. It certainly is a good time to start anything if that's what you want to do. And let me see if we've got, so we have Mars in the second house for Aquarius rising, though it's aspected by the full moon. So again, you can look at Taurus rising and Scorpio rising to get some more insight into what it means for the full moon to be in or aspecting the second house. Mm-hmm. And it's also aspected too by the Sun, Jupiter, and Mercury. So there is some emphasis on close family, close friends, and resources, and whether or not you're getting your needs met in those areas for you. And what's nice too is that Jupiter is in your 11th, so of gains. So that can only help. So I want to recommend the same book to you that I've recommended to Scorpio and meant to recommend to Taurus rising as well. And that is the book called, the name of it is Money, Master the Game, and it's by Tony Robbins. So oftentimes when Mars is going through the second house, you may have, it might be a good idea for you to like maybe pause oftentimes if you're feeling annoyed or irritated with something before you say something. You'll just be glad later that you did. But Mars is in Pisces, so he's not in a, you know, he's in a more wisdom-oriented sign there. So maybe that won't be too much of a problem. But one of the things I've noticed when people have Mars in the second house is that the things that they have, their possessions, they tend to use them a bit more, they get hard used, I guess you could say, including your body. So just try not to keep pushing yourself past that point where you feel tired. Like try to stop at that point. And you might want to maybe not wear your best clothes on Thanksgiving because you may find that you're getting food on yourself even when you normally wouldn't do that. And that's just because that's where Mars is. My daughter has Mars in the second house, and she gets really frustrated sometimes because even after she'll buy something brand new, something will happen to it. Some little thing, like a dress, you know, get a stain on it or get torn or something. And that's just the nature of having Mars in the second house. For you, it's just a transit, though, unless you have it there natally. And in that case, it'll be kind of intensifying that. Also, you may like eat your food too fast just because Mars is there. And so anyway, but the full moon in the fifth house will maybe help you to just concentrate more on the fun, you know, the fun of being with people that you care about on Thanksgiving and the day before too. And it's a good time to just get together with people, maybe spend time with your children or your, you know, people in your life who are kids, even if they're not yours. So what do you have to say about that, Rishi, for Aquarius rising?
Well, I think it's similar to some of what I said about Gemini and Libra because Aquarius is an air sign. So they have this potential for getting a little too much air from this moon and getting an influx again and getting Vata imbalance potentially. These are just potentials. Mm-hmm. Now, it's happening in their fifth house, which is nice. So they may very well utilize that influx readily, in which case it won't imbalance them because they'll conduct it and they'll express it, you know? So I think between Gemini and Libra, I think they're probably going to handle it in a more balanced fashion. For Gemini, there's just a direct impact level of it, you know? And for Libra, you know, just being an air sign, they need to just be cautious. But for Aquarius, they have that nice fifth house to put it all into. So I think that's a nice blessing. Otherwise, they are getting this, you're getting Rashi aspected by Rahu. That definitely, you know, is augmenting things for them.
And Venus, too.
Yeah, and Venus, too. And they recently, you know, got some relief because Ketu was in Aquarius.
Right.
So that's interesting, right? I mean, they had Ketu for so long, and now they're getting a Rashi aspect from Rahu. So it's interesting, you know?
Yeah, that is interesting. And it switched to their sixth house.
Yeah, you're right. So, yeah, whereas before it was, they were experiencing Rahu in the seventh, which was not that easy.
Right.
But Rahu in the sixth, definitely, you know, need to pay attention to health right now because it can definitely fly out of balance during this time.
Also, Rahu likes being in the third or the sixth or the, the third or the sixth houses because he helps you to overcome difficulties. He gives you the energy to do it and the toughness to do it. Because it does, he's one of those planets that can help you do that. And so it's in the sign of Cancer, which is related to emotional things. So what would you say? I mean, it's because Rahu expands any house that he's in, like the things of those houses. What would you say about that, especially since it's aspecting the ascendant?
I would say that there's definitely a confrontation with a person's sense of emotional security, emotional stability, and a sense of all that is home, you know, which home is also, as the saying is, home is where the heart is, right? Well, where is the person's home then? What is home to a person? What they feel secure with, which is first we have to feel secure with ourselves before we can feel secure about anything else, including our environment, the people in it, that which we do within it, etc. So before we express ourselves, we need to feel secure in that which we are before any of that. And so I think that's really the confrontation of Rahu and Cancer, is that internal development, that internal security and emotional fortitude that is secure, that is balanced, you know, because Rahu is always trying to balance what it's in. That's why Rahu is the 8th planet, you know, and 8 is an even number, and Rahu leads to balance, you know. So what's trying to be balanced is the heart, the home, and the emotional landscape of a person.
You know, what's nice too is that Venus here in his own sign is aspecting the 4th house for Aquarius. And that is really the house that Venus really loves to be in. That's
great. That is great. So that's hopeful. That's hopeful that they'll be able to deal with this Rahu in a rejuvenating way and you know, have that nice gentle influence of Venus, you know, in the 4th house. This is really nice. So I don't think this is going to be, you know, really, really difficult Rahu placement. It's definitely way better than what they went through the past year and a half.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so now we're to Pisces, the last sign. And for Pisces, the full moon is in the 4th house, which is the house that is the home house of the moon. The moon loves to be in the 4th house. So for you, well, this is, you know, the 4th house has to do with your inner emotional happiness. It's your home where you're comfortable. And it has to do with family because, you know, your ancestors, or just your family in general. So it's kind of perfect for this time of year for Pisces rising, because this is happening, right, the day before Thanksgiving, the day of Thanksgiving, and the full moon gives. So I think this is going to be a really nice holiday for you. And while it's in a, Mercury sign, which has to do with connection, you'll be connecting with friends and relatives and neighbors and such. But it's also the inner emotional happiness, so it's kind of like a personal, private house too. And I think you'll be feeling pretty good during this time, even though Mars is right there in the ascendant. In some ways, Mars being in the ascendant just helps you to get some of the things done that you maybe have been wanting to get done and putting off or haven't had time for. Mars sort of gets us moving. I've noticed that anyway. When I have Mars going through my first house, I'm just like, I can hike anywhere, I walk everywhere, I can do all kinds of things. So that's good. And it's aspecting your fourth, so you may, typically around this time of year, if you have company coming, you notice that you clean a lot more because you're imagining it through, the eyes of the people coming. At least for me, I know once a year, it's like I really get involved in cleaning more than normal. Mm-hmm. And Mars, aspect in the house will help you do that. And then you've got all these other nice planets too in the 10th for you. A nice Jupiter there, aspected by the full moon. So, but with the full moon there and it being opposite the 10th, the 10th house is an activity house. It's a public house. It's a house of responsibilities. And then the fourth house is a house more where you relax and enjoy yourself. And so the full moon being there means that, you can get some balance between doing and just being and enjoying. You deserve it. You've been working hard, been quite busy, and this is just your time. It'll be a year before the full moon's in your fourth house again, where the house that he really likes to be in. So take advantage of it and just enjoy being as well.
Yeah, I would say that this is a really activating time for Pisces people, because the Mars is on the ascendant, so it's adding a lot of fire to their water. And this airy moon is also going to help mobilize them. So there's a lot bringing them into activity, into manifestation. So that's really nice. And as you're pointing out, Karen, with moon in the fourth house, this is a really comfortable position. So it's a time when you just feel really comfortable in your environment, when you feel at home in general even. So that's really nice. And I think this is a great time for Pisces people. It's similar to what I said about some of the other water signs like Cancer, because water is a dense element. It's not, it flows, but it flows in a different way than air because there's this density to it, So it moves slowly, it flows slowly. So it's going to benefit from fire, which is adding warmth to it, adding that creative impulse, that manifesting impulse, that expansive impulse. And air is just going to make that all the more expressed and brought to life. And so it's really nice. I think that's a really nice moon. I mean, it really seems like for just about everyone, there's something really nice happening in this full moon. It's just a matter of finding what it is for you and harmonizing with that.
Yeah, right. And the ascendant lord of Pisces is Jupiter, and it's aspecting its own house.
That's right.
So it's helping to manifest that to the body, right? And perhaps your self-image, your path through life. And, Jupiter is an inspiration planet. He's actually one of the most creative planets. And then the sun, too, is a creative planet. So you have that together in the 12th. I mean, in the 10th, excuse me. So, yeah, I can't think of anything here that they need to be aware of. You know, it just looks all positive to me.
I think it's the same thing. It's a wholesome transits.
Even the Mars there, it's the 9th house lord for Pisces rising. Mm-hmm. So it's a good planet for Pisces rising.
And Mars does well in Pisces.
Yeah.
Because it gets delighted by Jupiter.
Right, and helps to move, like you said, the watery energy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm curious, Neeshee, what do you typically do for Thanksgiving? How does that in your family? Do you celebrate it?
We do celebrate it, although I would say in not the most traditional manner.
I'm curious about that. Like, what
because
is...
My family's vegetarian, for one.
Vegetarian, right. No turkey.
No turkey. Now,
right.
Secondly, my family is Indian. So, you know, this is a very American holiday. We basically utilize it to exchange, you know, gratitude and to come together as a family and honor it for all the same reasons that other people do, you know, which is what is there to be thankful for. This is the time to express that. This is the time to be together and be grateful for the people in our lives and that which is in our lives. And so we do that, you know, and we eat, of course, but we eat Indian food. And, you know, that's obviously cooked in, you know, a greater quantity than usual. So there's a bit of a feast aspect to it.
Well, I know if I was living in a country that the culture was different than perhaps the one I was raised in, I would totally take advantage of all the holidays they have too.
Why not?
Why not, right?
Why not? There's something to it all, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, I was just curious about that. So thank you for this. This is always fun, and I hope everybody finds it helpful. And again, you should be able to, so here, let's stop the share so that people can see us better. And also, you should be able to see under Neeshee's name here where you can contact him if you want to get an Ayurveda consultation, or if you want to get some of that essential oil that he mentioned, which was what again, Neeshee?
Jetamansi or spikenard.
Yeah, which was very relaxing. And so have a great Thanksgiving then.
Yep, happy Thanksgiving to everyone watching this video. Thanks for watching and listening to our forecast, and hope that it really helps you harmonize with these dynamic influences.
So until next month, we'll see you later.